Not the typical view off the bow of this fine little ship. We're actually on the hard, as they say, hauled out in Canoe Cove shipyard for our annual anti-fouling paint, change the zincs and do some other jobs. Today's been a fun day. About a month ago, these two things are the topping lifts. They go from almost the top of the mast there to either end of the boom. One of my reminders is don't move the camera so fast, it drives people crazy. So that's the end of the boom back there, and they kind of hold the boom in place when the sail's not there to hold it for you. And they also have the lazy jacks threaded through them, so that when the sail comes down it sits nicely on the boom, and the boom is supported by these topping lifts. So these are the two topping lift blocks which sit up at near the top of the mast. This is the one that broke about a month ago. You can see how the inner cordage there is very, very rough. Just old hemp rope. That would be familiar to a Viking 1,000 years ago. It had been wrapped in this tarred twine, which is a good system, but anyway, it broke, and the block that should have been sitting in there like that one is came flying out, and I only had a topping lift on one side. Not very good. Now I jury rigged this thing I found in storage at a much lower point on the mast, because I couldn't reach where it was supposed to be, too high up, and I figured I'd do that when I was in dry dock. So here we are. I've done that today. The other thing that went wrong was all this stuff hanging up there then got jammed in the block for the jib just last week, so that I could no longer easily haul up and down the jib. So what I had to do today was to get way up there, just about the middle of the three stays going to the bow. That's where all these things attach. In the front is the jib block, and on either side of that were the two blocks which were the topping lift. So I had to take down the jib block and untangle it and put it back up there and re-thread it. Take down the two fittings for the topping lift blocks and replace them with some metal ones I got there online. And to do that I had to haul the ladder they supplied here at the marina up my rat lines, because the rat lines just aren't that safe or steady. So I used the peak halyard, that's what it was, the peak halyard for the gaff. I used that to haul up the ladder here, tied it down very securely at about 6 different points to the shrouds, and I've now made, I think, 6 different trips up there. One trip up to release all the old hardware, another trip up to return the jib block after I'd untangled it, another trip to thread the jib block, and then 3 trips to do the 2 new topping lift blocks. One to install them, one to re-thread the port one, and actually 3 times to re-thread the starboard one, because I dropped it a couple of times, had to come back down. So 6-7 times up and down the rat lines here and this ladder. Anyway, the job's done. Nice new blocks, nice new line, and another fun day when you own an old boat. Getting to the final stage of the haul out now, the painting of the anti-fouling paint. Now I've had a problem with the boat, kind of leans a little bit to the port side this way, so there's always a line of scum. That was the old water line there. Always a line of scum and seaweed growing an inch or so above the official water line, because the boat's leaning over. So I'm going to raise that water line by approximately the width of the tape So I've taped to the old waterline and then kind of let it taper in there, because there's never any seaweed muck growing on this part, only on the big fat part. So at both ends it tapers down to join the actual waterline. Then I'm going to re-tape it again above this waterline and above this tape here. Then take off the tape, and the bottom of the second layer of tape will be the new waterline. That's the plan anyway. It should blend in fairly well with the old waterline. There'll be a bit of a dip there, no one's going to notice. But there won't be that ugly layer of scum along here all the time. We'll see how that works when we're finished. And just point out the rudder, which I've taken down to bare wood, sanded, had one layer of thinned paint as a primer, and now a second layer of pure paint as the first of what will be 2 coats. So I have to do the second coat while I'm actually in the water. Just not enough time. I taped everything off so I could actually get to the wood between where the bronze bits are there without getting paint on them. I see I've got some drips there to take care of. Okay, another quick sanding before the final one. And same again there, taping along the edges. Taping along the edges, because this is all finished with varnish. And we'll see how it looks when it's done. The hull above the waterline kind of needs stripping right down. You can see where the paint's dried and cracked and peeling on the seams between the planks. Not an immediate concern, but after a while you'll get fresh rainwater leaking down through the paint into the wood. Fresh water causes rot. You just don't want that. I've kind of looked at a few spots. It's not that bad yet, but next year it will need to have the seams brought right down to bare wood, and then some nice fresh paint. So why does she lean more to the port side? It could be the top mast there is actually mounted on the side of the boat, and every pound at the top of the mast is like, needs 20 pounds of balance in the keel to balance it out. So that could be why the cast iron wood stove is on the port side here, but the 55 litre fuel tank, that's 130 pounds, and the 20 litre water tank are on the other side. You'd think they would balance out the little tiny wood stove, even though it's cast iron. So now we have both levels of both layers of tape. What have I done here? Screwed up something. Yeah, that's alright. Yeah, that's coming off. I'm going to peel off the second layer of the first layer of tape, and then it will make sense. I confused myself there. Looked like a mistake. Okay, I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so there is the new waterline, the bottom of the green tape. I think that's gone rather well. So we'll see how she looks when the bottom paint's actually on and the tape has been removed, and see how she performs over the next season if I got the waterline raised high enough. So there she is with her new waterline, a little bit wobbly. That's alright. The whole point's to keep scum growing on the hull. Maybe next year I'll make her a bit straighter. I didn't want to make the entire waterline 1.5 inches higher, because then the bow wouldn't match on both sides, and the stone wouldn't match on both sides, and that'll look weird. This way we have the waterline matching on both sides of the bow, and our extra 1.5 inches. You can just see it in this light where the anti-fouling paint is on the white paint. And at the stern again, both lines match. I haven't done this little bit here because I painted the white in the morning. I want that to dry thoroughly before I put tape on it to just do that, which I'll do tomorrow morning before launch. Alright, more fun with a boat. It is June the 30th, launch day once again. And June's going out the way it came in January. Wearing 3 layers here and a toque. So things we've done today, we've changed the 4 main zincs, the big block zincs along the keel. That's what they were, and that's what the new one looks like. So that's a year and a half worth of corrosion there. And of course we've done the bottom paint. Another one of those blocks there. We've got these little teardrop ones, I call them. That's a new one. That's what they're like after, again, a year and a half. So the whole idea there is that these corrode rather than the bronze that's under there, and the bronze strapping on the rudder there. This guy here, I did buy a new one, but the new one is barely different from the old one other than being shinier, smoother surface. I'm just going to stick with the old one another season, see how it goes. It's something I can always just fix at the beach sometime. We're only a 1.5 feet below the water there. If I find a 4-foot tide and parker on the bottom, I can stand there in the water and easily change that and change those. I'm just kind of half kidding, done that before though. The propeller has been spray painted with a special bronze anti-fouling paint. I finished off doing the line there where the anti-fouling meets the new white paint on the rudder. Another coat of white, some more coats of varnish on the wooden part, the bright work as we call it. She'll all be done. So there's that, and of course we fixed up the rigging, and I've had a stuffing box installed on the engine. The old lip valve was failing, had to be done. That's what keeps the water out. There's water in this cooling tube here that acts as lubrication and cooling, and inside at some point that has to join with the engine, and where that happens there is a right now a stuffing box. I was happy to hear it contains a traditional old solution, hemp rope and sheep fat. That's what's keeping the water out. Very traditional, very old. That goes back a long time, using animal fats on your boat. What else we done? We had the survey done, very, very important. Every 5 years you have to have a survey done. You can't get into a marina without a survey. You cannot get insurance without a survey. And that must contain 3 million liability. So now we're good for 5 more years on that. So hoping next year's haul out will be quicker and less to do. So pretty soon the big travel lift will be coming in and they'll lift up the boat. I've saved some paint and a roller and the roller bath thing there, so I can quickly put some undercoating on the bits being supported by the pads there, and on the bottom of the keel where it's sitting on those blocks, and then we will be off. So that's it. That's the end of the haul out 2026. Looking pretty fine.